Welcome to our study on the book of Romans. This is the Romans Education Part 7, and this is session 23. Let's take a look at the verses that we're talking about here. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Now I need to do a little experiment. I have something for you. But don't open it until we all open it together. Are you ready? Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And we're made in the USA.
Thank you. Welcome. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry, buddy. You want a different one? You want a different one? Okay. Okay. Where's Davy? Is he back there? Here it comes, Davy. Where is Amanda? Oh, okay. There she is, okay. All right. Here's my experiment. Now, everybody open up your fortune cookie. Huh? Sure, you can eat it. How many of you have had fortune cookie before? Everybody? Yeah, everybody? Okay. When you read your fortune, what does that mean to you when it's over? After you do that, they always bring you these little cookies at the end of the meal. Somehow it's supposed to make you feel better about paying for the food. What does that mean to you?
It means I can set my week now.
All right. Let me ask you this. Now, you're looking at your fortune cookie now. Have you ever had a fortune cookie before, Audie? Do you remember what your last fortune was? No. Have you had one before, Linda? Do you remember what your last fortune was? No. Amanda, have you had one before? Do you remember what your last fortune was? Kinda? Okay. My point is, when you read this fortune cookie, it's curiosity factor, right? You break it open and you look at it and you say, oh. And then, you know what?
Usually you go, huh?
Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes you go, huh? And then you move on, right? Because it really doesn't mean anything to us. It's not like that. Now,
Looks like lotto on the back.
it does. It looks like lotto numbers on the back. I don't know what those are.
They are.
Is that what they are? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you something. I started to print this up and pass it out to you. But instead, I put it on the PowerPoint. Otherwise, the folks watching on the DVD wouldn't have any idea what we were looking at. Now, I want y'all are enjoying those fortune cookies, aren't you? Oh, yeah, you're welcome. I got more. Yeah, you can. Yeah, I got more. All right. So let me show you something. This is actually a copy of something that was really written, but I changed one word. But it'll suffice. So I just want you to see this, and then we're going to talk about it for just a second. What if you went out to the parking lot and you found that note on your windshield? Or you pulled into the parking lot and someone had taped that to the door.
Call the police.
All right? Bertha says, call the police. What would be going through your mind? What would be happening to you if you saw that? Huh? There would be some amount of fear there, wouldn't there? Anger. Thank you for those. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm after. Anything else?
Because the evil is after you.
Policy of evil is after you. All right. That elicit, that's a pretty different response from the fortune cookie, right? Okay. I just want to establish that. We're almost through with the experiment. So, yes, sir?
I would say, how can we protect it?
How can we protect the church?
Get bigger shotguns.
Bigger shotguns or something. Yeah.
Definitely have to be armed or something.
What kind of necklace?
Yeah. And you know what? And you would kind of be asking the question, if you don't stop, what? You know, is this about us as a group, or is it for the person whose windshield it was on? Or, of course, if taped to the door, you kind of think it's for everybody. It would be disconcerting, wouldn't it? Okay, here's my last questions about this. Do you think that when you went home tonight, that would still be in your head? Do you think it'd be in your mind tomorrow morning? Yes, it would. Perfect. Okay. Now that we've done that, and I know you're wondering, what in the world was that for? You'll see in just a moment. Now, when we get into, and let me go ahead and look at that verse again. When we get into this verse, we realize, and we've been through a lot of weeks of everything that we've been looking at, and really more than we've been looking at, is encapsulated in that first phrase, the night is far spent. And we've been unpacking that through the weeks to say, this is what is supposed to be in your mind when you read that verse. Because when Paul writes that, that is the godly thinking that has to be. In other words, we don't just think, oh, the night is far spent. But everything that's involved in that is what comes up in our thinking when we read that, and that is the same thinking that our Heavenly Father has. That the night is far spent. And when He interrupted His program with Israel, and both Israel and the world had come to a zenith of ungodliness, and Satan had established his night, and he had redeveloped the world of the ungodly, and it was ripe for judgment, and God is now enduring with much long suffering those vessels of wrath that are fit to be destroyed. And we realize that night is not completely spent, but only far spent, and there's something there. All of the things that are involved in that constitute the godly thinking that is supposed to be in us. Now, here's my fear. And I don't want you to answer this question out loud, because I'm not trying to trick us or trap us. But I think intellectually we look at the data in that and we go, okay, yeah, I get all those things you just talked about. I get all that. What I don't think is happening is that that thing is working in us the way it's supposed to. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if that phrase was working, really working, the night is far spent, if that was really happening with us here, we would be looking and feeling and reacting toward that phrase like we did that note. But instead, I think we think of it like this. It's not a rebuke. I'm not doing that. I'm saying we just kind of go, the night is far spent, the day is at hand. If that thing was really working in us, it would have produced anger, fear, and an outrage that demanded that we do something on the same level as if we found that note. And that's not happening. All this is data and information. It's academic. And it's got to be more than that. So we're missing it in one of three areas. Either I'm not doing a good enough job of teaching it to you. Or, number two, there's a piece of information that's still missing that hasn't turned that corner for us. Or We're just looking at it here and we're going home and we're not really looking at what that thing is saying and thinking about it and contemplating it and putting it into our prayer life and making it the subject of our conversation. Because if it was really working, I'm going to tell you, you would be knowing that and knowing that the night, and you know all this, knowing that the night didn't stop with the interruption of the program, but the night continued on, and you're in the midst of that night, that ought to scare you as badly as the firebomb note. And that ought to make you as angry as the firebomb note. And the first thing out of Bertha's mouth was, call the police. And you know why? Because you've got to do something. And that phrase ought to so stir you with outrage and abhorrence and anger that you say something has to be done. And that's not where we are. And I'm just saying it that way because that's the truth of it. And if we expect that just getting the data of it is all it is, we have missed it. This can't be the way it won't work. This is what makes other places that go through this and they learn all the information of it, but they never really have that stuff working in them. It never goes from their head to their heart. And because of that, you know what they do? They wind up looking around and they're going, and look, I'm in this with you. I'm not saying I'm the only one walking around with this sense of urgency. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I've come to the same place about myself that I'm talking about. I'm only telling it to you because I think it's true for all of us. I'm not saying you don't care. I'm not saying are you following what I am saying? I'm saying that if you just picked that verse up and went, the night is far spent, the day is at hand, you're not outraged. And you're not fearful. And it hasn't worked in you the way it was supposed to do. You should look at that the same way as if you got a note on your car that said, your church will be firebombed if you don't stop. And you would instantly think something's got to be done. And that something is to cast off the works of darkness, put on the armor of light, and walk honestly as in the day. It's not just, let's go do something, anything. It's to do those things. But if we don't see it the way it really is, look, almost everybody here has kids, and you know what? You see kids making bad decisions, and you know where that's going to take them. You know. And because of that, and you have concern and love and fear for what they're doing, and you know what? You give them advice that they don't want to hear. You're more fearful about the situation than they are. Do you know why? Because you have some experience in your life that you look at and you say, I see where this is taking you. And they don't. Because they're all the exception to the rule. Well, all I'm trying to say is, I'm going to do my best to fix my end of it. I'm going to make sure that there's not something lacking, that this doesn't work, because the problem is not the verse. Look, I hesitate to say this on the tape, but there have been those who have determined, because they looked out and saw that this wasn't happening the way it was supposed to happen, and here's what they concluded: sonship doesn't work. And it does. But it won't work if we don't work it. Does that make sense? I hate to say it that way. So what I'm trying to say here is, that's the way we know that this verse is working in us. It's the difference between being able to just give all the answers, but it really doesn't do anything for us every day. Tomorrow, if this verse works, tomorrow morning when you get up, it's as much in your memory as that note. And you begin to look around at what's happening in the world and you're saying, I am in the midst of a night.
Right.
And it is, I have got to do something about this.
Well, it's let us understand what's going on, and we do see what's going on in the world, and we don't like it. But we also realize God's in control, and
All we can do is concentrate on ourselves.
True, true. We're going to have to do the job that we're supposed to do.
and they've done such a good job in the churches of taking the people's minds off of what's really happening in God's world.
Well, isn't that the truth? And I know
That
people in the DVD
you
are not hearing.
Talk to someone and they start telling you what they've learned. They don't want to hear it.
Right.
They don't want to hear it.
And today we're going to find out why that's so hard. Because if you've ever encountered resistance, and I know many of you have, and you've ever wondered, why is it so hard for people to see this? Why is it so hard for them to understand this? Because I've been at the place, just like you have, to say, I don't get it. This looks plain to me. But I'm going to show you something that was done that is still in effect today that makes it that difficult. That it seems obvious. Oh, I almost want to stop the tape to give this example, because I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus, but my daughter and son-in-law that were just visiting with us went home this morning. They were talking to one of the associate pastors at the church, where the guy was talking about, I think it was in the book of James, and he was talking about stuff in his sermon that was going to be, and my son-in-law said, we're not part of the tribes. That's not for us. It says that's to the 12 tribes. That's not us. And he goes, that is us. And he got all, and they were like, okay. So when the guy got up, and they both said, and when he read the verse, you could tell he was about to make the same point he had made in private with them. And suddenly his eyes fell on the words, and he had to start changing what he was about to say, because he realized what was said there really wasn't for us, it was for someone else. And then it became apparent. Why was that? Why couldn't he see that 15 minutes earlier? I'm going to show you why.
He's been taught different.
Well, he's been taught different, and he has an idea that's working. He does. So anyway, I'm starting out that way just to say what this is can't be fortune cookie. We kind of read it and we move on. It's got to be something that elicits that emotional response that all of you perfectly described. And the more you get that, the more that emotional response. I'm not just saying it's all about emotion, but it does make you angry, and it does make you fearful, and that is what motivates you to go do something. Because if that's not what's motivating us to cast off the works of darkness, put on the armor of light, and walk honestly as in the day, if that's not what's motivating us, we're not going to do it for very long. We'll do it for a little while, it'll be novel, and then we'll move on to the next thing. We can't do that. This has to come from inside us, not something we conjure up ourselves. It's got to be the natural event of that. Okay. So, what I'm trying to get to now is that, and I put this in your notes, is that this produces an attitude of such abhorrence, of such objection, of such hatred, of such offensiveness, that we feel compelled to do something about it. And that's where this verse has to go for us. And that's not just to make us angry. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying this verse is just supposed to get you all riled up. But what it's supposed to do is to motivate us to start replacing the darkness of untruth with the light of the truth, because there is a desperateness to the situation we're in. I'm getting close to telling you something. When Linda jokingly said last, I think she was joking, she's not joking, when she jokingly said, in the next 2 years, are we going to find out that thing that Satan is wanting to do out here in the night that he is working toward? That means that he has to keep that thing rolling. And I said, oh yeah, you know. Well, my point is this. To Satan, I'll just say it to you this way for now. Having failed at the cross, because what he thought he was doing at the cross is extinguishing the light. Having failed there, what he wants to do here is the only and best chance he has of holding on to the possession of the earth. Everything is riding on that.
He's doing a good job.
And he's doing a really good job. But if we impact his ability to do that by casting off his works of darkness, and look, I know I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but it's the timing. When I told you from the beginning, it's the timing of the dispensation of grace. In other words, when God interrupted that program, the night was already far spent. And that's when God goes, He blows the whistle and goes, time out. Think about, He is on the very edge of getting ready to do the thing that He wanted to get done. That's why it was all at a zenith of ungodliness. And now He's going to do something that will help Him retain possession of the earth so that He doesn't lose it. And God calls time out right there. Think about, it's in a basketball game when a team has got the ball and they're about to shoot the winning shot and a coach calls timeout. We're going to put that on hold for a minute. And something is resting on our ability to cast off the works of darkness, impacting His ability to keep that darkness at a rolling boil, at a fever pitch. You understand, everything He's about, everything He has done to develop this night and increase it in darkness is to bring it to this place to accomplish something over here. And everything has been on purpose. Satan is not willy-nilly. He's not just running around, let me do a bunch of bad stuff and see if I can mess God up, and I'll just try any and everything. This thing has purpose behind it. This has an agenda, and it's all moving in a very specific direction, and it's on purpose. And when he got it to this place, he fully expected that this is where he was about to shoot the winning shot. And God stops the game. And it's been stopped for 2,000 years. And during this time, there are sons and daughters who are supposed to, and look, I please don't get this wrong. This isn't a tutor and governor session. I'm looking at the hope of the dispensation of grace in this room. As far as I'm concerned, are there other assemblies out there? There's a few. I don't know what they're doing. I only know what we're doing here. And I'm not counting on them to get it done. I'm counting on us to get it done. And I'm looking at the people sitting in these chairs and I'm thinking, if we don't get this done, it may not get done. That's how desperate this is. I don't look at a plan B. Well, if we don't get it done, there's a group out in such and such that may get it done. I'm not counting on that. I just know about us. Look, I do love you. But more than that. I think these are the people that through the effectual working of this Word, they have what it takes to impact what Satan is trying to keep rolling, so that when this is over and the remainder of his night comes back on the scene, he is not going to be in the position to do what he wants to do. Now look, we could just throw our hands up and go, we ain't worried about the earth, we're worried about the heavenly places. But all things in heaven and all things in earth are going to be brought together into one in the dispensation of the fullness of time, and that's when the creature begins to fully function. It's like joining your physical body with your soul and spirit. So we have to care about that. So this thing that is going on here, and that's why I'm talking to us about being this sense of outrage and urgency and desperateness and appalled over the success of the adversary. And that's why, and look, in the old days, you know what we thought? He's mad at us because we're saved. Are you kidding? Saved people are some of his best promoters of untruth. They put it on their billboards. I see it going to Glenrose. Pray for rain. You know what that is? I know it doesn't look like a big deal, and you can say, what's the big deal if somebody prays? You're promoting the darkness of the adversary. That's the big deal of it. You're not casting off the works of darkness. You're aiding the works of darkness. I mean, this has really gripped me, and I'm just trying to find a way to tell it to you. Look, if this was just academia, if that's all it was, you know what? I'd just get up and give you information. We move through. That'd be the end of it. It can't be that. It's got to be more than that. This has to be living in us. And I'm just saying it this way because I'm counting on the people in this room to do this. And I'm just trying to convey that urgency there. Okay, so let me get back to the notes because we're not going to get where we need to go until we do that. So, let me get past that. So all I'm saying is here, we're going to have to be motivated from within by what the doctrine does in us. Not from anything else. Not because everybody else is doing it, not because Brother Mike says it's a thing to do. The doctrine has to really produce that in us. And that's why I believe with all my heart, if we saw the night the way it really is, if we saw the situation and what all this was leading toward, if we really understood the agenda, if we saw that, we would look at the danger of that situation and realize something has to be done. There's things riding on this. This isn't the kind of thing where God is saying to us, it really doesn't matter if you do it or not. I'm going to sort it all out. So, if you do, fine, and if you don't, fine. That isn't the way it is. Okay. And by the way, can I just say this? We were born into this world when it was night. We have never known a world where light outweighed the darkness. We have never. We came into this thing over here in the dispensation of grace long after the night had reached a blackness that made the world worthy of destruction. We've never known what it's like to live in a day world. And one day that's going to come to pass. All right, we left off last time looking in the book of Deuteronomy. And I'm going to need you to turn over there and just look at this verse because I'm going to make some statements about it. I don't have it on the PowerPoint. I meant to put it on there and I forgot to go back and insert it. But it's Deuteronomy chapter 4. And I just want you to notice something about it. This is the verse that we were reading when we left off last time. Come on. Deuteronomy chapter 4, and look with me. Let's see, verse 5. Thank you. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me that you should do so in the land whither you go to possess it. And what I'm trying to call to your attention here is the issue of the statutes, and judgments. Look what he says at the beginning of that verse. Behold, I have taught you. They learned something in the form of statutes and judgments. And let me just kind of synopsis this. Those statutes and judgments were of a particular nature. The nature of those statutes and judgments is this. They were designed to be appealing to Gentiles in two particular areas. What are the, and as a matter of fact, that Israel was supposed to impact the Gentile nations in a number of ways, but there were two of those ways in particular that they were supposed to impact those nations. And as they were getting ready to do that, they were going to do it by putting on display the things that they learned from these statutes and judgments. Now I'm going to show them to you here because I want you to be able to identify them. But they were of such a nature that a Gentile would have looked at those and then said, the God I'm serving isn't anything like Israel's God. In fact, my God is foolish compared to Israel's God. There's no God like that. These things were designed to showcase that aspect of God consciousness. I talked to you about that last time, that they would understand who was the true and living God. And that's one of the first things this was designed to do, is to show them that and showcase that. And to do that, they were going to be two things in the world. They were going to be the light of the world, and they were going to be the salt of the earth. Now I know we looked at that passage last time, but we didn't really, and look, I'll make this clear. We are not the light of the world or the salt of the earth. Only Israel can function as that. Are we supposed to put on the armor of light? Yes. Are we supposed to, conduct ourselves in accordance with light? Yes. But we're not the light of the world. That is something that is only able to be produced by the nation of Israel. And the salt of the earth. So when Jesus comes along and gives us corrective doctrine, He's telling them that their light has been put out and their salt has lost its savor. Now what is the savor of something? It's the taste, it's the flavor, it's the... And if it doesn't have any flavor, what does that mean? If food doesn't have any flavor, how do you feel about it?
It's bland.
Bland, huh? You don't want it. You know what? These statutes and judgments as salt were supposed to make these Gentiles, that knowledge would, let me say it this way, taste good to them and they would want more of that truth. That's what that was designed to do. But they didn't do that. They didn't follow through on that. Okay, the thing has gone off. But I do have a lot to show you, and we're going to get through these notes today because we need to see these things.